All right, this is the screen that shows the Santa Monica College databases, and we're going to take a look at one of these in a second. But I just want to show you that there are many databases listed here, and you might want to take a look at this and start thinking about using databases for research. Journalism, students, journalists typically use databases that contain previously published articles, and the reason they're great is because you can search them really quickly and find a bunch of articles written pertaining to a very specific topic, so you can very quickly get up to speed and be really knowledgeable about something, and that's why they're really incredibly helpful. It's how fast you can do it, and also just how you can target very specific information. And the sources contained in these are very reliable. It's much more reliable than just going out on the internet where you're not really sure who's publishing these websites. The ones that are most typical uh, might include this master file premier, which contains a lot of journals, and down here they also have LA Times Historical, which is really useful, newspaper source, and national newspapers. But you can really go to any library. Here's, for instance, the Los Angeles Public Library and a list of their databases. They have a lot more, and just by having a LA Public Library card, you can have access to all these databases. A lot of them from home. You just need to log in with your library card. So I'm only on the A's here and B. Quite a few, so it's a great resource. If we go into, I'm just going to show you quickly how you would use one. We're going to do national newspapers, and that is called ProQuest. And if you use that, you would click on that, and then you're going to get a screen that looks like this. All the interfaces for each database are going to look a little different, but so you just want to play around with that and get familiar with it. Basically, this is really important because what you're doing is this is where you tell the database, this is what I want to search for. And so you have to be really careful about the keywords that you put in here, because the database is not like a librarian. They don't know exactly what you're looking for. You can't ask questions, and they can follow up and kind of figure out what other things you might be interested in. It will only look for exactly the keywords that you put in here. And you can use these search operators, which you should play around with. So you can either expand or limit the search, and you can add other keywords. You can do even more advanced search. Here's a search tips, or how to search more effectively. You can limit the date if you know an article ran very recently, and you can also limit it to full text. And you can also limit where you will be searching. I like to search in the document itself, because that's most often what I'm looking for, specific words that might be in a previously published article. But there are other ways you can search. So if you click on this, now let's say I'm a college, working at a college newspaper, and I want to do something on the rising costs of college textbooks, because I hear a lot of students talking about that. So, okay, that's my basic idea, but now I want to refine that idea and find sources and find probably a better idea, or something more specific. So I put in college textbooks and costs as two search terms, and this may not contain everything I'm looking for, so I might want to change these later depending on what comes up. But then I do a search, and I get a list of all the articles in the database that have those words in them. And I came up with 70, which is a pretty good search. But also at the top, I came up with subjects that relate to the topic that the database thinks I'm looking for, which is incredibly helpful, because you can see they actually have subjects in here, and you can also search databases by subjects. And here they have subjects called textbooks and college students. I'd probably want to click on that and search that as well. College students and costs, that's not as directly related but interesting. Textbook and price increases is really important, so I would probably click on those. And you can see they have the headlines for the stories, where the article ran and when it ran, what section, so you can kind of get an idea of what stories might be good to look at. And you want to just start reading through some of these stories and thinking about them, and thinking about refining your idea. And here I click on one that ran pretty recently in the LA Times. And as I go through here, this is about online textbooks. May not be cheaper, and so maybe that's what I'm thinking about doing my story on, more about online textbooks. And I noticed this is stories based on a report, and it was by a group down here called Make Textbooks Affordable. So I make note of that, and then I go online and I search for that group, and I find the website for that group, and then I'm going to use them as a source. And I see here that they have some kind of, they're campaigning for something called the Open Textbook Campaign, which is really interesting. And so that's probably a much better idea than just a general story about rising textbook costs. This campaign to make open textbooks, professors who would just put their textbook online for free. So that's a really good story idea. So I would contact them, read through their website, and use them. Now I'm back on the database here, and let's say I do click through on a subject to give you a sense of what that might look like. And here I do textbooks and college students, and then I'm going to get some more stories, and I would look through here as well. Here they had 36, so it's a more specific search, which is good. And if as I scroll through here, I can see that there might be some articles here that I might want to look at. And so here's less costly options make textbooks more affordable. So that story seems interesting. I'm going to click on that, and I can see that was also pretty recently too. As I scroll through here, I get some more information. Maybe I'm going to do a how-to story, which is more similar to this, which is how to save money on textbooks. That would be a good story to do for the campus paper. It's a much more refined idea. And I see that a group here is a student public interest research group. I'm going to scroll through, do a Google search, and find their website as well. And here's their website. Maybe they have here's something right here, make textbooks affordable. So there's a lot of good information here that I can get from them. So they're a good source for a story that I might be doing. So that's just a quick overview of using databases as a way to refine your story idea, find some sources, and just kind of study and become knowledgeable and get great background information on a topic. If you scroll through here and read several of these articles, you'll be very knowledgeable about what's going on in a quick period.